Well, we have a very interesting guest with us today. Of course, we always have interesting guests, and we have all the way from London, we got Peter Dazeley. Peter, thank you so much for coming on the Photobug podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for your interest in my work.
Oh, yes, your work is fascinating, and definitely we want to go ahead and talk about that. But first, why don't you talk a little bit about yourself? Just give our viewers just a little bit about who is Peter Dazeley.
Well, I am a born and bred London photographer. I was educated in the 1950s and 60s at a wonderful school in London called Holland Park. We had 2,500 pupils. It had amazing facilities, including a large swimming pool, 3 gyms, woodwork, metalwork, engineering, technical drawing office, domestic science, language laboratory, and finally it had studios and darkrooms. I was taught to use plate glass cameras using plate glass negatives. I think the best thing about that was that photography discovered me and got me going. I was struggling hopelessly at school with dyslexia. I didn't know that, and I don't think the teachers knew anything about that. I was in a class of 50 boys. My form teacher used to have a cane above the blackboard called Brother Sunshine that he used to beat us with. It was, I now wonder whether he was enjoying doing that. Heaven knows what was going on in those days. And in the Easter holidays, age 15, I saw an ad in an evening paper in London for an assistant with an advertising studio. And I went along for an interview with my mum. And to my amazement, they offered me a job. And I never went back to school again and started my career in photography. Even in my first job in 63, we were still printing logos off glass plates to put on artwork. It's a tiny speck of time, not even a lifetime, that we've gone from getting our hands wet to shooting digitally. And also in an advertising studio, I was amazed. I was surrounded by amazing skills of illustrators and airbrush artists, paint-up artists, typographers, people doing hot metal, hand lettering artists, where you could see the talent dripping off their fingers, huge skills, which have now pretty much, typography, which is such a wonderful thing, is now pretty much replaced by Macs. The whole world has kind of changed. So I'm now 75 and I'm slowing down, and I've done quite a few books on London, and Sam Landers in Chicago of Trope Publishing kind of reached out for me to the possibility of doing a book. He came to London, we had lunch, and agreed everything, and then within a short period of time, because most of the work that's in this fine art book was produced over the last decade, so I was able to deliver it, within a couple of weeks, and it just went super smoothly. And the book was sent off to the printers in April, and last week I got my first copy to get my hands on, which was lovely.
And that's the book Monochrome?
Monochrome, yeah.
And is that available through Amazon, all the booksellers?
Barnes & Noble, Amazon, or any good bookshop, and it comes out in October.
Oh, great. Well, we've got your website up here, and it talks about, we want to go over some of your photographs because these are fascinating. First off, when I had my camera store back in the 70s, I was also strongly into black and white. It was kind of my market niche because nobody else was doing it. Everybody else was color. And that paid off for me anyway. So I'm glad to see that there's still photographers out there that are still into black and white.
Well, I do think that digital photography has color or black and white.
Yes.
That's
yes.
a simple thing. What I was kind of doing was, in advertising, you might work with a great stylist or a great hair and makeup artist or a set builder or something. And to me, it was the delight of going back to a process that was in the 1800s. Mm-hmm. And just as you invite a stylist or a hair and makeup to a party to make you look good. Ours at 31, Paul and Matt Scafello 31 Studios in Gloucester are the leading black platinum printers in the country, and so it's buying into their skills and ability, and also to push them as well to try and experiment and do different things with the process.
Well, let's talk about some of the pictures that you had. And I'm assuming that the pictures on your website are also the ones that are included in your new book that's coming out?
Yes, the book features flowers and things and X-rays and mammograms, anamorphic and solarization. So a lot of the stuff on the website, there are nudes, so be careful what I say here. But tastefully shot nudes with masks and things. But that may be the next book. If this book is successful for Sam and his company, then I think we may pursue that idea.
We're going to
also the book is slightly tongue-in-cheek. It is a DIY book. At the end of it, there's a whole section on the process itself with pictures of the prints being made.
Oh, good. Yeah, we've been fascinated. Years ago, Fred and I don't know if you're familiar with a photographer based in Florida, Clyde Butcher.
No.
Clyde Butcher is a black and white photographer. He shoots with a large, well, he used to shoot with large 11 by 14 black and white negatives. He would go out into the Florida swamps, and he's often...
gallery, yeah?
He's called the Ansel Adams of Florida because of it, and everything, of course, is black and white. But let's get back to your photos here.
Chris brought it back to me. I did actually go and visit his gallery.
Oh, did you? Down in the... Yes. Well, the reason I had mentioned that, we were fascinated by, we did a whole thing of his darkroom and his process and how he produces these large prints. So, and since I was in black and white, I know what it takes. I'm fascinated with your X-ray images. We want to talk a little bit about those. You have a nautilus shell, crab, lobster.
I suppose that I'm always kind of looking for interesting things, people or places to work with, and I've done a lot of books on London, and that's about blagging your way into places to be able to photograph them, and so it's really the chance to. I love experimenting, making mistakes, and blagging my way into a hospital in the evening when there's nobody around and saying, can I just put a few of these things in the X-ray machine and see how they work. And it's an interesting thing because the different amount of power you put through them and how it affects them, and also if you're photographing things with metal in it, it's all very different. But I just like the way of seeing inside things. And one of the pictures is of a tulip, which I did on a mammogram, which has the most amazing kind of fine detail.
Yeah, we're looking at the picture right now, as a matter of fact. So these were actually done on an X-ray machine. I didn't know if this was a special technique that you had done. So
keep your hands out of the way. Yeah. It's good for birth control and other things like that. But
and right next to that, you got a solarized rose. You want to talk a little bit about that, because that's also, I love the look of that. It almost looks like a charcoal sketch.
It's solarization, which its technical name is the Sabata effect, which is named after, I can't remember Mr. Sabata's first name, but it's named after him. And it's a matter of kind of reversing the blacks to white. It's when the image is kind of flashed in process.
And it reverses.
Yeah.
The blacks and whites.
Funny story. So this goes back in time. But so solarization. Interesting story about Man Ray, who worked with solarization, and that occurred after his muse Lee Miller, who was a model and became a wonderful photographer of fashion and war, a lady worth looking at. And Lee Miller was in his darkroom processing his film, and a mouse ran over her foot, and she screamed and turned the lights on, and turn them off quickly. And so they rediscovered solarization, of which he went on to do a lot more of his work in solarization. So it's again experimenting, and
it was a lucky accident.
yeah, well, he just rediscovered it.
Yes.
And so working with 31 Studios, I was able to kind of push them a bit and get them to experiment for me, which in fact they turned out very grateful about that, because they, I love working with creatives. A lot of my advertising work, I work with really top art directors, and every so often you kind of end up and you're shooting an ad and you think, this doesn't look right to me, this looks really odd, why are we doing it like this? I don't get it. And then the job goes off, and then a couple of months later you see the campaign running and you go, wow, these guys took me to somewhere that I would have never got on my own. And that's one of the lovely things about working with other creative, to bring something else to the party to kind of make me look good.
Well, good. Again, I love the images you've got here. Beautiful shot of a solarized sunflower.
Yeah.
An X-ray of a sand scorpion.
Yeah, that actually ended up as a CD cover for the Scorpions.
And scorpions are interesting. They glow under black light.
Ooh.
They glow kind of a green color. They're not sure quite why, but you can actually find scorpions at night if you're in an area with scorpions just for using a black light. They actually kind of light up.
Okay. Mine was quite dead when I photographed it.
That's the best way to handle them, by the way.
Yes. Well, I have to say that I think I liked the starfish.
Starfish, yes.
That was because of what you pulled out with that X-ray. You see, I could see this either as art or in a science book, either one. It's one of those where it's just very detailed. So I saw that and I went, wow, that is pretty cool.
It was my Christmas card that year that it came out.
Oh, did it? Well, yes, a star would be appropriate for a Christmas card.
But, it's just, it's pretty interesting. And you've taken some pretty creative avenues towards, getting the photography, the results that you want. So that's what I think intrigued both Jim and myself.
Yeah, the Nautilus shell too. I mean, it has that nice pattern.
That's a beautiful thing. That's the amazing thing of nature, how perfect it is.
Yes. And the X-ray reveals that so nicely too.
So these days, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so these days, what things are you pursuing? You've gotten that book, it's on the shelf, so to speak. It's ready to go. It's out there. What's your next move?
Well, there's quite a bit of next moves, like getting the fun and joy to talk to guys like you.
Actually, it's our pleasure. We enjoy talking to guys like you.
We're trying to get publicity for it and trying to get, as I said, I'm hoping it's going to be successful for Trope Publishing. So at the moment, I'm spending a lot of time on doing that, and I'm working on a press release and things that we're going to get going. I mean, it's difficult. I'm always looking for new ideas and new things. I love seeing ideas, but not ripping them off, but thinking, oh, that's something I could do a bit better or something like that. It's, I love the idea of there have been a few occasions when I haven't got, I think one of the important things for everybody is to have a camera with them, which nowadays isn't a problem. Everybody's got a phone.
Yes, exactly.
The idea of things that I missed because I didn't have a camera with me, and one of my favourite pictures, which is up on the website somewhere, is my 12-year-old being born. I'm in a hospital. I'm sitting up by my wife's head, and the team and the surgeon are doing a cesarean. And in my usual way, I'm just blagging. I say to the surgeon, could I just, take a couple of pictures? And he said, well, hang on a minute, and I'll bring the screen down. And I got 2 frames of Indigo's first breath. I mean, a really moving picture. And of course, being a complete idiot, I decided I'd whip this up onto social media rapidly, and was somewhat taken aback by the emotions that I caused in people, from good and from bad.
Oh, yeah.
And this, we shouldn't be seeing things like this. So of all the things that I do, if I can create an image that creates emotion in people, I'm over the moon on that.
Yeah.
You've got
that's how having a camera with you is a kind of fun thing to make sure.
You've got 2 pictures right behind you on the wall that are fascinating. You want to tell a little bit about those?
Both is from exhibitions. Let me get this right. This one is in a very swish restaurant in London called Oxo, where we just put an exhibition up around the restaurant. And the other one is an exhibition at the Royal Photographic Society. I was in Bath, I think, at the time. So they're just bits of fun that we have posters done for them, that's all. I guess it's self-promotion. I mean, you've got to remember, photographers, are all full of insecurities and rejection on a daily basis of why you might get a job or not get a job. It's not. And there have been great photographers who've taken their own lives as well. People like Donovan and Carlos Clark committed suicide. And you kind of think, I guess it's going to be very difficult for the next generation of photographers. That the young kids that I see, they put their work on Instagram and their friends like it and tell them what a great photographer they are. But how are they going to monetize it? They're overconfident in their ability. Plus, they have tutors that are telling them that aren't telling them the truth. They aren't telling them the realities. Otherwise, they'd have no bums on seats. And really, the way that I've just bought a new iPhone 14 Pro. It's enormous files. I'm going to be shooting much more on a phone. There are.
A lot of photographers are doing that right now.
But this has moved on somewhat. I mean, there are in excess of 800 engineers working on the iPhone camera alone.
Right.
A speck of time. If you're owning Canon or Nikon, you must be having trouble going to sleep at night. I'd have thought. I don't know.
Yeah, we got an iPro iPhone XS the 13, the previous phone.
Well, I was shocked at what this camera does, shooting huge raw files. And one of the interesting things, at Christmas I was in Florida with my family. We were on the beach in Naples. That's some nice shots. So I'm shooting on a rather expensive Nikon camera, and my kids are shooting on their iPhone. And so we're shooting against the sun, so it's not easy. So my pictures were okay, but the iPhone pictures were just fantastic. I mean, just mildly better at dealing with the mixed light. I was just shocked at how good it was dealing with the backlit subject.
Tell me another thing too with the technology. What's your thoughts on AI? These AI generative photos.
I just check that you're sitting down.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Check that you're sitting down before I start on AI.
Oh.
It's huge. It's advancing at an unprecedented rate. It's great at spot. It's great at. It's 20% better at getting lung scans for cancer than doctors are. It's great at doing. There's so many things it's great at. I mean, like there's a thing in the paper this week where it's actually scanning drivers and it's managing to sort out who's driving without a seatbelt or who's using a phone and pursuing them for that. We have AI news readers. I mean, it's difficult enough to know what we're watching anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Another nice bit in the get ready for the world's first AI election. As recent fake images of Donald Trump and Mike Pence show, there are fears that computer-generated scams will swing the polls. So this leads on to, as I said earlier, that I'm wildly dyslexic. And I recently gave a talk to my youngsters' school. And so having a superpower, it's like problem solving. How do you solve problems? So I have to make a speech to a big class of kids. So I put into ChatGPT 3 words: school, dyslexia, and speech. And I end up with 2 pages instantly. So rather than do it myself, I give it to one of the boys to read out, just to make it easy. Then I put into AI, what are the dangers of AI? And worryingly, the answer that he gave me was, there is a risk of superintelligence. If you are not careful, we could all become, AI could become smarter than humans, leading to a situation where we lose control of technology. This could lead to an existential threat to humanity, as we can no longer influence our own destiny. Let alone the people that will find their job replaced by AI. It's really, to me, it's part of creatively in music and photography. It's like the copyright cat is already out of the bag to some extent. I don't see how we're going to get it in. Governments seem to speak very loudly of how they're going to control AI, but I think we can absolutely dream on of that actually happening. And Jim, your picture could be my great picture tomorrow afternoon, and I could stick it in there and say, turn this into a Picasso. How are you going to come? You're going to come sue me? What are you going to do about it? Recently there was a photographic competition in this country where one of the guys won the prize and then came out and said he'd done it all together on AI. And it was like a couple of women. And I think if you think in time that we had a lot of painters that were quite good at painting but weren't particularly good at fingers. And this particular finger, you could see like the girls had like a handful of sausages.
Yeah.
You could see that it wasn't quite right, but this is irrelevant because this is now within a speck of time. It learns, it doesn't forget. It will get better and better. And, AI is just scraping the internet for imagery.
Yes.
To steal.
It's also, it's killing. I used to sell quite a few images as stock photos, and agencies now can just go to the AI, generate what they want. I saw one recently. It was a travel for Paris. It was the Eiffel Tower, and it actually put right down there, generated by AI. So some photographer lost a sale of a good picture of Paris because of AI. So I think
we're still ongoingly troubled by the fact that everything on the internet should be for free. It's like
yes.
How will the creators of the future be able to afford to create if they can't monetize what they're doing?
Yep.
You don't want to make a sad.
Well, here in the States too, we have an actor and writer strike on, and a large part of their arguments has to do with AI.
And also, you have 2 very old men trying to be president.
Yes. We don't need more artificial intelligence. We need some real intelligence.
Well, I did. When Trump got elected, I did put some money on. I put quite a lot of money on it because I thought it was a time for redneck middle America didn't want another Bush or a Clinton. As we were progressing, I was thinking, and then Stormy Daniels came out, and we had girls being grabbed by the pussy and stuff like that. I thought my money was gone, but clearly America wanted change.
Yes.
Now we have the conspiracy theories that that the world is running with. But as a Londoner, America's full of so many great people, young people. Mm-hmm. Is it just totally money that ends up the way that we do?
Yep. No, you're so right.
I love that Trump was saying that, the Ukrainian war with Russia, he said he could solve that in 24 hours.
Yes, I just heard that recently too.
But the other thing about the iPhone, I think, is it's opened up photography and the ability to take good pictures quite simply. So it's made it more fun for people. I know we have people that like Polaroids, but you can't really do much with the Polaroid. You can't really send it anywhere.
That's true.
And if I can upset the whole of your listeners, I don't really quite get the idea of shooting on film.
Well, yeah, I came from a film background, and so did
Both
Fred.
of us did, yeah.
So, in fact, I still have Ektachrome in my refrigerator here, which I haven't used in, I won't say how many decades. It's been sitting there.
Stops over or under could you shoot on your Ektachrome without being completely useless?
Right.
Now you have amazing latitude, amazing. We never viewed film in the same way that we view a digital file.
Yep.
Film was sharp. And digital cameras are great at dealing with mixed lighting and long exposures. The latitude is amazing. And the other thing about film, I can hear people moaning and complaining in the background. When you've got a great image on film, the first thing you do is scan it, so it immediately becomes second generation. Whereas a digital file, for me, is like a negative. It's a starting point with just amazing opportunities.
Yep.
I can hear people switching off now.
Well, we're running out of time here. We want to have you. We always ask our guests to give some advice to new photographers, or even advanced photographers. What piece of advice would you have to give to a photographer today?
Always have a camera with you. Experiment like mad. Try different lenses. Different lighting. Do pictures that you're proud of. When you've got them, sign and date them. Put them on the wall. Put them up there for people to see. I think it's about just experiment. I think experimenting is a big word. You can do all sorts of things. Try all sorts of different things. And some of it will go wrong, and maybe you'll discover some kind of different way of doing it that's really exciting.
We had a friend that we used to photograph with that used to call that getting stupid. He said, I just go out, it's something that's just totally ridiculous that nobody else would think of doing.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, we want to...
I'll tell you a little bit about the book and the process. So the process is designed by William Willis. It was devised in William Willis in 1876. And it starts off with handmade French watercolor paper, which then is applied with a platinum emulsion by hand with a goat's hair brush. So it's an art form in its own right that you can actually apply emulsion to a
glass plate
without any rungs or drips. It's then exposed by an INS negative, so it's the same size contact print. And whereas in the old days it would be exposed by sunlight or daylight, now they expose it with ultraviolet light. So the printer sits down with the ultraviolet light and goggles on, and dodges with his hands the light and dark bits like you would with a bromide print. And then it goes into developer, and unlike a bromide print, it comes up instantly, woof. So it's not like a bromide print where you can leave it in a bit longer or whip it out a bit quicker. And it is an amazing process, amazing skills that you're relying on the printer to do. They have amazing tonal qualities, and they have a huge lifetime. They will last a very long time. So they're a joy, absolute joy to be working with.
Well, we actually appreciate it. We want to urge everybody to go out. And your book is coming out when? You
October.
Said? October?
Can be ordered in advance from Barnes & Noble or Amazon. Or any good book.
And we're going to put your website up down here so people can go out and check that out too.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming, spending your time with us here.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity of talking to you guys.
Thank you so much.